Breaking. U.S. launches strikes on Venezuela, captures President Maduro, and charges him with drug offenses.
Why has Trump attacked Venezuela and taken Maduro? Donald Trump says U.S. forces have captured the Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro following large-scale strikes in Venezuela. The U.S. president wrote on social media that Maduro and his wife, First Lady Celia Flores, had been flown out of the country. Their current whereabouts are unclear. The Venezuelan defense minister, Vladimir Padrino, has said that the armed forces would defend the country's sovereignty. The strikes inside Venezuela come after a U.S. pressure campaign against the Maduro government, which the Trump administration accuses of flooding the U.S. with drugs and gang members. Has Maduro been deposed? We have little information so far. What Trump has revealed in his social media post is that the U.S. has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader. Maduro and his wife have been captured and flown out of the country. This, coupled with the fact that Venezuela's vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, has said that she does not know where Maduro is or whether he is still alive, indicates that Maduro has indeed been deposed from office. However, the Venezuelan defense minister and Rodriguez are still in the country and have appeared on state television, indicating that key members of Maduro's government appear to remain in power.
How did the operation unfold? There is little detail so far about how the U.S. operation was carried out. Video footage from inside Venezuela shows large explosions, and residents of the capital, Caracas, reported hearing aircraft and blasts. Smoke could also be seen rising from the different parts of the capital, and helicopters could be seen flying in convoy. Several military installations were reportedly hit. U.S. officials told the BBC's U.S. partner, CBS News, that the strikes had been ordered by the Trump administration. They also told CBS News that Nicolas Maduro had been captured by the U.S. military's top counterterrorism unit, the Delta Force, but we have no further details about the reported capture so far. The Venezuelan government confirmed that Caracas had been attacked and said that there had also been strikes in the states of Miranda, La Guaira, and Aragua. Nicolas Maduro rose to prominence under the leadership of left-wing President Hugo Chavez and his United Socialist Party of Venezuela, PSUV. Maduro, a former bus driver and union leader, succeeded Chavez and has been president since 2013. During the 26 years that Chavez and Maduro have been in power, their party has gained control of key institutions, including the National Assembly, much of the judiciary, and the Electoral Council. In 2024, Maduro was declared winner of the presidential election, even though voting tallies collected by the opposition suggested that its candidate, Edmundo González, had won by a landslide. González had replaced the main opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, on the ballot after she was barred from running for office. She was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in October for her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy. Machado defied a travel ban and made her way to Oslo in December to collect the award after months in hiding. She said that she planned to return to Venezuela, a move which would put her at risk of arrest by the Venezuelan authorities, who have declared her a fugitive. Nicolas Maduro, the leader who promised to win by hook or by crook.
Why has Trump targeted Venezuela? Trump blames Nicolas Maduro for the arrival of hundreds of thousands of Venezuelan migrants in the U.S.
They are among close to 8 million Venezuelans estimated to have fled the country's economic crisis and repression since 2013. Without providing evidence, Trump has accused Maduro of emptying his prisons and insane asylums and forcing its inmates to migrate to the U.S. Trump has also focused on fighting the influx of drugs, especially fentanyl and cocaine, into the U.S. He has designated two Venezuelan criminal groups, Tren de Aragua and Cartel de los Soles, as foreign terrorist organizations, or FTOs, and has alleged that the latter is led by Maduro himself. Analysts have pointed out that Cartel de los Soles is not a hierarchical group, but a term used to describe corrupt officials who have allowed cocaine to transit through Venezuela. Trump has also doubled the reward for information leading to Maduro's capture and has announced that he would designate the Maduro government as an FTO. Maduro has vehemently denied being a cartel leader and has accused the U.S. of using its war on drugs as an excuse to try to depose him and get its hands on Venezuela's vast oil reserves. Is Venezuela flooding the U.S. with drugs? Counter-narcotic experts say that Venezuela is a relatively minor player in global drug trafficking, acting as a transit country through which drugs produced elsewhere are smuggled. Its neighbor, Colombia, is the world's largest producer of cocaine, but most of it is thought to enter the U.S. by other routes, not via Venezuela. According to a U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration report from 2020, almost 3/4 of the cocaine reaching the U.S. is estimated to be trafficked via the Pacific, with just a small percentage coming via fast boats in the Caribbean. While most of the early strikes the U.S. has carried out were in the Caribbean, more recent ones have focused on the Pacific. In September, Trump told U.S. military leaders that the boats targeted are stacked up with bags of white powder that's mostly fentanyl and other drugs too. Fentanyl is a synthetic drug which is 50 times more potent than heroin and has become the main drug responsible for opioid overdose deaths in the U.S. On 15 December, Trump signed an executive order designating fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction, arguing that it was closer to a chemical weapon than a narcotic. However, fentanyl is mainly produced in Mexico and reaches the U.S. almost exclusively via land through its southern border. Venezuela is not mentioned as a country of origin for fentanyl smuggled into the U.S. in the DEA's 2025 National Drug Threat Assessment. What is Cartel de los Soles, which the U.S. is labeling as a terrorist organization? How did we get here? There has been a buildup of pressure on the Maduro government since Trump began his second term in office last January. First, the Trump administration doubled the reward it offered for information leading to the capture of Maduro. In September, U.S. forces began targeting vessels it accused of carrying drugs from South America to the U.S. There have been more than 30 strikes on such vessels in the Caribbean and the Pacific since then, killing more than 110 people. The Trump administration argues that it is involved in a non-international armed conflict with the alleged drug traffickers, whom it accuses of conducting irregular warfare against the U.S. Legal experts say the strikes are not against lawful military targets. The first attack, on September 2nd, has drawn particular scrutiny, as there was not one but 2 strikes, with survivors of the first hit killed in the second. A former chief prosecutor at the International Criminal Court told the BBC that the U.S. military campaign more generally fell into the category of a planned, systematic attack against civilians during peacetime. In response, the White House said it had acted in line with the laws of armed conflict to protect the U.S. from cartels trying to bring poison to our shores, destroying American lives. Back in October, Trump had said he had authorized the CIA to conduct covert operations inside Venezuela. He also threatened strikes on land against what he described as narco-terrorists. He said that the first of such strikes had been carried out on 24 December, though he gave little detail, just stating that it had targeted a dock area where boats alleged to carry drugs were being loaded. Trump has repeatedly said that Maduro is no friend of the U.S. and that it would be smart for him to go. He also increased the financial pressure on Maduro by declaring a total naval blockade on all sanctioned oil tankers entering and leaving Venezuela. Oil is the main source of foreign revenue for the Maduro government. The U.S. has also deployed a huge military force in the Caribbean, whose stated aim is to stop the flow of fentanyl and cocaine to the U.S. As well as targeting vessels they accuse of smuggling drugs, the force has also played a key role in the U.S. naval blockade. U.S. strikes on Latin American drug boats, what do we know, and are they legal?
The U.S. has deployed 15,000 troops and a range of aircraft carriers, guided missile destroyers, and amphibious assault ships to the Caribbean. Among the U.S. flotilla is the USS Gerald Ford, the world's largest aircraft carrier. U.S. helicopters reportedly took off from it before U.S. forces seized an oil tanker off Venezuela on 10 December. The U.S. said the tanker had been used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. Venezuela described the action as an act of international piracy. Since then, the U.S. has targeted 2 more tankers in waters off Venezuela. Tracking buildup of U.S. military planes and warships near Venezuela. How much oil does Venezuela export, and who buys it? Maduro has long accused the Trump administration of attempting to depose him so the U.S. could gain control of Venezuela's oil riches, pointing to a remark Trump made after the U.S. seized the first oil tanker off Venezuela's coast. When quizzed by reporters as to what would happen with the tanker and its cargo, he said, "I assume we're going to keep the oil." However, U.S. officials have previously denied Venezuela's allegations that moves against Maduro's government were an attempt to secure access to the country's untapped reserves. Venezuela has the world's largest proven crude oil reserves, and profits from the oil sector finance more than half of the government's budget. However, its exports have been hit by sanctions and a lack of investment and mismanagement within Venezuela's state-run oil company. In 2023, Venezuela produced only 0.8% of global crude oil, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, EIA. It currently exports about 900,000 barrels per day, and China is by far its biggest buyer. Venezuela says Trump wants its oil, but is that the case? What we know about U.S. seizure of oil tanker off Venezuela.
Subscribe for verified updates. Comment your thoughts. Do you believe these claims? And stay informed, not manipulated.